Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome to the channel. In this video, it's time to turn this Golf into my Golf. So as you will have seen in a recent Coffee and a Chat, I unboxed this white kit from Avant Slot of the Mk1 Golf GTI and went through all the options, and you can build a Series 1 or Series 2 model version of this car. And I told you I was going to do a Series 2 because that's what I used to have, and I'm going to build my car. I'll put a link to this video in the description or at the top of the screen in one of those bubbles. Anyway, moving on, we need to just break the project down into simple bits. So there's the chassis, the exterior and the interior. Now with the chassis, I've already painted the wheels silver and put the tyres on them. This chassis assembly is fairly straightforward. There aren't very many bits. Couple of brass bushings that go in the back axle holders, and then an axle front and back. The wheels just push fit on. The motor really can only go in one way, and you screw it in with 2 screws to hold it in. Just make sure everything's nicely lined up. And pop the axle and the crown gear on. Bit of oil. And then I'm going to replace the braids, because the braids that come with this are coppery ones that don't seem to work very nicely on my track, and obviously the slotting standard braid works really well, I found, so might as well change it over. I have to say, swapping over the wires in this guide was difficult. Not as easy as, say, the Revo slots or some of the others. It was just a bit fiddly. The fit was a bit too tight, possibly. I mean, okay, it's not going to pop out of its own accord, but I had trouble getting the wires back in with the braids. Got there in the end, though. However, my camera battery ran out, so you missed the rest of me fighting with that. Sorry about that. So cut to a finished chassis. As I say, there's not a lot to it. There's a couple of axles and a motor, and that's about it. You can set a bit of lash by adjusting the screw in the back, and there's 2 grub screws on the top there and 2 grub screws underneath that go in sort of underneath that guide, and you use those to set the front axle height and reduce the amount of slop in it. If you can reduce the amount of slop, it will reduce how noisy the car is on the track. So if we put it on the setup block, you'll see I have fiddled about with it quite a bit, and the front axle will move with the car, but at the same time it takes very little resistance to stop it, so the wheels are just touching, which is kind of just about where you want it to be. So, having sorted out the chassis, we need to move on to the body. Now, this body has obviously come out of a casting process, and it's probably still covered in all sorts of chemicals. So, quick bath in the soapy water and a bit of a brush with a toothbrush, just to get whatever's left on it off. There may not be anything, but there we are. And a rinse through on some clean water, and we'll just leave it to dry. Now, I did say we're going to build my Golf, and here's my Golf. I don't think I've owned it for about 14, 15 years now, but I miss it dearly, and I don't think it exists anymore. It may have gone to the great car show in the sky, but that is my Mk1 Golf, Larsa green, red front grille, 4 lights, and you'll notice all those kind of little thin black detail stripes along the sides. We're going to try and recreate all of that. And because my car was Volkswagen Larsa green, and you spray Larsa green paint on cars using a grey primer first, I've got some grey car primer. Then off eBay from a order some custom paint kind of place, I got the correct paint code, so it will be the exact correct colour. And because I don't want any paint reacting, I will use their suggested clear lacquer with that as well. So all those paints should go on, and they shouldn't cause us any problems at all. Now, I can't really show you the painting process because rattle cans are horrible, so you need to do it outdoors. However, I've painted it with grey primer with a rattle can. You know how to do that. And I've given it a good even covering inside and out. So having let that harden off for a little while, it's time to hit it with the metallic green. So we'll have a little bit of magic of television. There we are. I have painted the green on it. It's a really nice colour. They should do more cars that colour. I like it. And then I think we'll have another little bit of magic of television, and I shall put some clear lacquer on it. Off we go. Ta-da! So that's come out really nicely. All those paints do work really well together. Look how shiny that green is now. The thing with rattle can clear is you need to put enough on that you don't get a texture, and it just sort of self-levels, but not too much that it starts to sag and dimple up. So that's done. Now there's all those little bits of black stripes and detailing that I pointed out quite quickly when we were looking at the pictures of my car that I need to put on. I'm going to use some frog tape, and I know I should be using Tamiya tape for the fine masking, but I haven't got any, so I'm just going to chance it with this. It's good tape. So rather than rely on the edge of the tape, I'm cutting it into thin strips with a sharp scalpel blade. And then, as I did with the Don White Dodge Charger, I'm creating a little template stuck onto a bit of crap masking tape that I can stick on the side of the car, which will give me the masking for the pinstripes that go along the bottoms of the doors and along the sides of the car. And then I've kind of masked the rest of the car up, so you can see there's the 3 little lines there and the 3 little lines there that would be on the car. They're usually like a matte vinyl sticker, as is the section around the rear hatch window, which on mine certainly was a factory fitted matte black. So a bit of rattle can matte black spray, unmask it, and then we'll mask it up again, and this time I've masked it up with a different masking tape, never mind, but so that I can paint the wheel arch details around the windscreen where the black windscreen rubber would be, and the door handles, which should also be black. So more rattle can black spray, more unmasking, and then mask back up again, and this time it's the tiniest amount of masking ever for the very thin coach line along the side, full length of each side of the car. And I've also masked up round for the side windows where the window rubbers would be for those as well. So one more lot of rattle can matte black and a final unmask, and I'll let you see the results of an awful lot of masking tape. So there we are. There are the thin black stripes along the side of the car in a matte black. The plastic wheel arch covers that you get on a Golf GTI. Black door handles, black round the windows, and there is, if you look just closely, a very thin pinstripe all the way along the side there. How I managed that with frog tape, I still don't quite know, but I did, and I'm very proud of it. And of course, the black vinyl detail around the rear hatch window as well. Now, the interior, there are some bits that we don't need to paint, such as the rear bumper, and there are some bits that we do need to paint. The first of which is the front grille, which is going to need that red stripe all the way around the edge of it, like my car had. There's obviously all the lenses for the front and rear lights. They're going to need some silver for the front ones and some reds and yellows painted on them for the rears. I've got a driver, but he's got a crash helmet. That's no good. But left over from Don White's Charger, there's a head of somebody without a crash helmet, so I shall graft that onto that body. This front bumper needs to have a pair of indicator lenses painted onto it, so I'm going to try and mask that up and do those. And I've already started masking up the seats. Now the seats in my Mark 1 Golf GTI, I've masked them up as a stripe. The centre panels had these kind of colours in them. I'm never going to be able to do that at that scale, but I'm going to put a kind of a greeny stripe on there to represent it. And on the windscreen glass, I had a smoked green section at the top of the glass which didn't match the colour of the car, but nonetheless was there, so I'm going to try and do that as well. So into the paint booth, bit of green paint, quite a lot of thinners because I just want it to be translucent on there. And I did primer up the guy, and I painted my seats while I was there. So let's just kind of unpeel the seats. And you can see that sort of is a rough representation of the detail in the seats in my car. I mean, it'll be inside a little tiny model. You won't see it in a lot of detail, and I'll be sitting on one of them anyway. And if I unmask the glass section, it's probably a little bit light green, but it's not far off. So that's my sunscreen strip across the top. So glue the seats in. And the steering wheel in the front. That's a bit tricky to get in, but once you get it in, there we are. That's the kind of nuts and bolts of the interior sorted. And then I decided I'd put the wing mirrors on. Now, in hindsight, this was a bad idea at this point. What I thought I'd do was I'd super glue them in and get all that done so that there was no chance of any super glue misting up the windows when I put the glass in. But having done it, they just got in the way and I kept knocking them. So if I was building another one, I would probably do them last after all. It was a daft idea. And then a bit of that canopy glue that I've used before, because it doesn't frost up any plastic, but it does take a while to cure. So just use that to stick the glass into the roof of the body shell. And it will have to sit there and cure for a little while, so I'll need to put a bit of weight on it just to hold it in place. Once I've finished fiddling around with it, come on Dave, sort it out. Right, you happy now? No? This time. Well, looking for something to use as a weight, I might as well use the weight of the canopy glue. So I'll put that in and we'll just leave that to cure off for a little while. And while we're doing that, I have masked up the front bumper so that I can spray two little tiny rectangles in there. I'll use a bit of white primer and then I'll spray some yellow over the top to make indicator lenses. And I have attempted to put the red pinstripe around the front grille by covering everything in masking tape and then very carefully slicing off the section that I want to paint. And as you can see, that worked out pretty well. I surprised myself with that. I didn't think it would work that well. I think I'd have to have 2 goes at it or something, but nope, it worked. And I have got my indicator lenses in my front bumper. And when I painted the light lenses, what I did was I got some blue tack and I squished them all in so that the sides of the lenses were buried nicely into the blue tack, and then just painted the backs. So you can be a little bit more careless with the paint. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get it running around the sides of everything. It sort of masks it off quite nicely. And I did have to do a correction. I checked the picture again And where I had painted a stripe on the headrests of the front seats, it shouldn't have been there, so I've blacked that bit back over. And I've painted my Dave up. I think at the time I had that car I'd have been wearing blue jeans and a black t-shirt. Still tend to do that. And now it's time to put it all together. So literally sat the driver in, glued all the little bits together on the front grille and glued it in. It's not very difficult. There's only one way most of these things can go. And I put the little petrol cap filler in as well. And the wipers. Again, just, you know, it's 2 bits of plastic and some glue. You know how to do that. You don't need me to show you. What I have done then is got some decal paper and printed out my own Volkswagen badges and number plates. And then you just put a little bit of clear acrylic over the top so that your printer toner doesn't float off when you put it in the water. And then let that cure, and then you can just use them like you would any other decals. This is incredibly fiddly. I managed to get the number plates on the front and the back. And I managed to get the Volkswagen badge on the back. And it took me 2 goes to get the very, very tiny GTI badge on the front grille. And again, that was something I didn't think I would manage, but in the end I surprised myself. And I did. One last little adjustment, look. Oh. So there we are. 4 lights, indicators, GTI badge, red pinstripe, number plate. Quite a lot of detail just on that front there. And here is the finished car. Now, there is a little bit of an issue. There's 2 issues. One is I'm sitting on the wrong side of the car, but they don't make a right-hand drive version at the moment. Somebody could do that. That'd be nice. And the other thing is it's got the standard steel wheels on it, and mine being a Series 2 had the Tarantula alloys. So if anybody would like to 3D print me some Tarantula alloys that are the correct wheels for this car, please get in touch. I'd really love some, and then the car would be just about right. I should also probably have cleaned all the fingerprints off it before I put it on that turntable, shouldn't I, looking at it? Whoops. Anyway, this is my Mk1 Golf. Compare and contrast. Okay, the lighting's a bit different, but I don't think I'm too far off. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Let's go for a little bit of a spin round the track, shall we? And there we are. Thanks for watching one of my videos. If you liked it, you will find a button specifically for that. Please subscribe to the channel, it really does help. And if you hit the bell, you'll get a notification the next time I post a video. And check out this channel. It's not a slot car channel, it's a modelling channel. Stumpy Grumps. Well worth a look.